Hey, what's good, fam? This is the Wackadoodle Samoan, and heaven is where we're going. All right, let's get right down to this video. I know you've been waiting on this. Okay, so this video has to do with a few things. The fruit trees of Israel, the timing of the 80-year generation, and then the rapture of the church within the 80-year generation. Okay? All right, so let's get started. Here we have an olive tree with the Israeli flag. God's Land Down Under had posted on his community post an individual that was bringing forth their postulation about the 80 years. So if you want to read this in its entirety, go to God's Land Down Under. Brother Brett. And anyway, so here, let's get started. Leviticus 19:23. And when ye shall come into the land, and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit therein as uncircumcised for the first 3 years. But in the 4th year, all the fruit thereof shall be holy. Okay. Now, this individual started the timetable on May 14th, 1948. My timetable is a little bit different. So, do you remember the past couple of videos where I showed you this theory of this relation between Israel, okay, Gregorian years that end in 7, and contracts that have been penned or agreed upon specifically in the month of November. You guys remember those videos, right? The Balfour Declaration, 1917, November 1947, Resolution 181. Six-Day War was penned and agreed upon in November of 1967. So we see these very interesting, and for that matter, 2017, Donald Trump, at the time 45th president, declared Jerusalem the eternal capital of Israel. Okay, so this was in 2017 as well. It was a little bit later. It was like December 6th or something like that, but it was still in that Hebrew month, if I may. Okay. Now, that being said, let me show you a few things here, okay? So, horticulturally speaking, the ideal time to plant most trees in Israel is in the months surrounding the first winter rains, which is October through December. All right? The olive tree is the most prominent fruit tree in Israel and is considered the country's national tree. We have here some scripture that says, remember that Jesus, of the seed of David, was raised from the dead, according to my gospel. John 12:24, I tell you the truth, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many. So my timetable is based off of here in Leviticus 23, where it is the planting of all manners of trees. So what does that mean? That means you plant seeds. Does that make sense? So the tree is the actual plant. So it's the seed that gets planted. Well, I propose that the seed of modern day Israel was planted November 29th, 1947. And then it was only a few months later that it produced its fruit in May 14th of 1948. Jesus is the lamb that was slain. And we know that the ancient lambs of Israel, called Jacob's rams, they are conceived in the winter, and they give birth in the spring. So just like Jesus is the lamb, okay, Israel followed the same pattern. I think even with the trees, it follows the same pattern, the fruit trees. So that being said, it takes at least 3 years for olive trees to bear fruit. But don't worry if it takes longer. Some varieties may need up to 7 years. Interesting, huh? Very interesting. Fig trees can be planted in the fall in warmer regions of Israel where hard freezes are rare. Okay, so it does say that fig trees can be planted in the late fall or early winter. Okay, so if there is any truth to this theory. If we don't start it on May 14th of 1948, but rather we start it as the seed that was planted, okay? Let's go to the calculator here. Then if the seed was planted in 1947, okay, then when you add 4 years, so in the 4th year is 1951. When you add 80 years to that, you get the 2031, which all of us have seen the 2031, because when you back off the 7 complete years, obviously you get 2024. Does that make sense? So I believe that in this, even in the trees, the fruit trees of Israel, shows that the 80-year generation, again, I'll do it one more time, from the planting of the trees in 1947, the planting of the fig tree for Israel, olive tree, okay, the first 3 years are considered uncircumcised. But in the 4th year, so there's 3 years is 1950, but in the 4th year, 1951, is when it's considered holy. So in 1951, now you have a tree that is budding and is producing fruit that is edible, right? Well, when you add 80 years to that, that's the 2031, or the completed 2030 agenda, right? The UN, everything's Agenda 2030, right? So that's that complete year from 2030 to 2031. When you back that off 7 complete years, tribulation, that comes to 2024. So my theory is, going back to the this post here, is that I believe instead of 1952, it's actually 1951. Does that make sense? Hence 2024. And I believe that if what we're seeing is a consistent pattern between God, Israel, peace contracts in the month of November, then it would only stand to logical reason, or our humanistic reasoning, as much as we can reason this out, that a contract will have to be penned and signed and agreed upon in the month of November of this year. And that would still allow for the complete 7-year cycle, the time of Jacob's trouble, the last week, to come to a complete fulfillment, if that makes sense. Okay? So there you have it. I wish it was a little bit more, had a little more teeth in it as far as credibility, because it's just a theory. All right? But I'm sure that you can see how I got to that theory. Because we look at the track record between God and Israel, right, in the month of November, and we're seeing a very consistent track record. So why would the month of November in 2024 be any different? That's the question. Granted, this is not a year that ends in 7. I get that, okay? However, it is 7 years from Donald Trump declaring Jerusalem, penned, mind you, as the eternal capital of Israel, and also the first great wonder of September 23rd, 2017. We're 7 years later, right? So, again, all of us, we're watching, we're waiting, we're looking at certain things, okay? So, this isn't a matter of who's right and who's wrong. Please understand that. This is not a matter of who's right or who's wrong. We're all looking and watching and waiting. But I'll say this, we do agree that we're probably that we're most likely are in the season of the rapture of the church, okay? Whether that season is over the next 6 months, for me, I'm very convinced that something has to happen this month, in the month of November. So that's me. And guess what? If November comes and goes and we go into December, I'm going to look at that, okay? So please understand, Bride, it's not about being right or wrong, okay? None of us started these channels to, be right or wrong. Okay, we're all just a distribution point for your ideas that we can come together, iron sharpening iron. So there you have it, guys. All right, hey, I'm there. I really think that the something big is going to happen with Israel this month in November of 2024. You guys already know. You do already know. This is the Wackadoodle Samoan, and heaven is where we're going.